Hey guys, it's Debbie, and I'm back with Dr. Anna Cabeca to talk about her new book out. This is part 2 recording of her new book called MenuPause. I wanted her back on the show, so I felt like we needed to dive in a little bit deeper into the 6-day MenuPause plans. And this will help us figure out which plan we should start with, the why, how long to stay there, when to push pause and try something different. I keep feeling that there's this common theme everywhere here: variability, variation. We want to mix things up and not stay the same all the time on the same program as our same exercise program, our same nutrition program, our same fasting program. It's always that flexibility, variation. So anything too much seems to cause problems, dysfunction, imbalances, and anything too little can create deficiency. So always kind of mixing things up, but when do we need to change our program? That's when we can really personalize your nutrition and training program. And what I do as a health detective, health and fitness coach with my clients is really personalize everything. Let's figure out what works best for you and when to change it. So we don't know unless we test and analyze and assess and course correct as needed. But there's some red flags that might come up that says your body's telling you that I need something different. I need to do less of this or more of this. And we need to listen to that. So what I call intuitive training, intuitive fueling, we have to learn how to listen to our body. Maybe that doesn't happen for 30, 90 days after you become more in tune with your body and done some healing protocols. But it's really fascinating how much our body tells us if we learn how to listen and be present and be in tune and in sync with ourselves. So we get to be so sympathetic dominant, being in that fight and flight system all the time, that we're in that overdrive, that we don't know how to shift back into the parasympathetic rest and digest. And once we have that variation, being able to go to sympathetic to parasympathetic and being in between, I think we're able to start to feel more, feel how our body is, and think about what those red flags are and be more in tune to what we need to adjust and course correct. So more is not better. Fasting too much for athletes is not a good thing. There's a lot of dysfunction imbalances that can come across. Maybe not right now. Maybe you're doing amazing with ton of fasting and ton of fasted exercise and doing low carb, keto, carnivore, whatever you might be doing. But over time, you might find those benefits don't continue and you may need to make a shift. And I think knowing that and having the tools to do that is a great way. And Dr. Anna has that in her book for men and women. You don't have to be a female going through menopause to understand these different food plans. And I think, she's got the Keto Green Extreme, the Keto Green Plant-Based Detox, the Carbohydrate Phase, the Keto Green Cleanse, and a carb modification plan. So it's a really great book you can find on her website or Amazon. And then it has a bunch of recipes in it. So big part of the book are the recipes, MenuPause recipes. And really what I love, the last chapter is pause. I always like to tell clients this: push pause, reset, reboot. We need to do that often. But what no longer serves you? What are you doing now? Is it serving you? Is it giving you the results that you want? Sometimes we need to stop and pause and think about this. Is what I'm doing now working for me? Is it getting me where I want? What do you want to happen? Why are you fasting? Why are you training for a race? Why are you doing low carb to zero carb? Or maybe you need to experiment with the carnivore diet. Why? What's your why? What's your purpose? And what do you want to get out of it? Sometimes we need to switch it up because we're not getting those results anymore and your body needs something else. You might find yourself get more results if it's fat loss, performance, longevity. We might just feel better if we change it up more often and not be on the same program for 6 months, 3 years, and your health could be even better. So let's talk to Dr. Anna and learn more how we can be our best selves, feel our best, look our best, and perform our best in life. So stay tuned. Hold on. All right. I've got part 2 with Dr. Anna Cabeca on her new book, MenuPause, because I think we did part 1 and touched on it, but there's so much more we can dive into because this book is something you all need to get, females and males. It doesn't have to be a female menopausal thing, but it's just such great information that you can apply into your daily menu plan. So Dr. Anna, thank you for coming back on.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure. It is great to be here with you. We just started chatting. I'm like, oh, let's start recording because so many good things that we touch on. And a lot of it is like, it's, I just like to say variety is the spice of life, right? Doing the same thing every day and expecting different results is the definition of insanity, right? So why is that any different in our nutrition plan, right?
Yeah. And I think that's why I love your new book, because it has 6-day menu for MenuPause plans, MenuPause, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to be menu. So I can't even say the word MenuPause. Menopause. I'm going to mess up the word.
I love the title. It always makes me laugh, but yeah. So, and it's before menopause, during menopause, or well, after menopause. And yeah, even guys are doing the plan. So that's the beauty of it too. And I think that's really important. I would say if it works for a menopausal woman, because we're in like metabolic disarray sometimes during menopause, most of the time during menopause. And so if it works for us, it's going to work for everyone. And it certainly has panned out that way really nicely. And the concept with MenuPause was, to shake things up a little bit. We've been doing my keto green, my keto green world has been going on now since 2015, early 2015, and where we've been implementing these plans. I have women with me since then. And so every once in a while we change things up. And so that's where these pauses came into play, right? So, and it's just honestly, it's fun, it's exciting. It will make sense. And at different stages in our life, we may need something different. But, do we need to do something for the rest of our life, or do we need a pause? And I argue that we need a pause.
Yeah, no, and that's why I love this book, because I always say we need to push pause, reset, reboot, like our computer. We need to do that to our own body, often quarterly, not just do the same food plan for a year. You're not doing, for athletes here, we're not doing the same workout plan. Ideally, all year long, it should change into phases to get the best results. If I'm doing the same strength training program all year long, I'm not going to see any results. Like I've said, when I was training for Ironmans, I didn't lose any weight. My body got so used to it. So even though I'm training 20 hours a week, I didn't change. So, your body gets used to things no matter what. So I think adding that variation in our fasting, in our nutrition, in our macros, switching it up as you do for your exercise training program is so essential to really getting the desired results. Hopefully it's health and longevity.
Absolutely. It's like, as you're cross training your workout regimen, you have to cross train your diet. Yeah. And I think that JJ Virgin likes to say that cross training, and I like disruption. Like we need a disruption. We need to just change things up, just make a disruption. It can help us break through a plateau, look at what has been blocking our path to success. Where do we need to take a different route to get to where we're going because our path is blocked? And so I like disruptions.
So I'm writing this word down because Neil, my husband, and I started, I don't know where he listened to a podcast with me, but we're doing word of the day. And you kind of have to feel what that word is of that morning. Like when we start our day with yoga this morning and we went for a walk and did our backwards walking up our hill, and whatever we do to start our day, we think, hey, what is that word? Where does a word that I see? And today was acceptance, accept where you are. And tomorrow I'm like, I'm going to use that word tomorrow, disruption, but it has to mean something to you, but disruption and mix things up. And it's like why we do a cold shower, right? You just want to have a burst of stress, acute stressors, and mix things up too. So nothing becomes ongoing chronic stress. And also, having just set ways. I think we just need to spice things up mentally, physically.
Oh my gosh, you're so funny. You remind me. I love it. I love what you're saying, and it sounds like you have an amazing relationship. Like, oh my gosh, I'm praying for that. So that is beautiful, especially coupled and on path and doing some fun things together like that. I mean, I just love it. And you're like, one of the disruptions I did in my life this morning was I do this when you come to Dallas, anyone listening, you guys, there's Ritual One Yoga. It's infrared, it's an infrared studio. And so it just sweat bucket. So today I did sculpt class. It was really terribly hot in there. And so, it's 30 degrees in Dallas right now, 36 degrees this morning. So not as cold as it was last week, but I had my big coat on. I usually have my fuzzy hat because you're coming out of there soaking wet. And I walk from my condo building down to the yoga studio. It's not far, but it's far enough. And so coming out of yoga, I was like, I need a disruption. And so I just didn't put on my coat. So I'm sweating in my yoga top, in my leggings, soaking wet, head in a bun, but soaking wet. And as soon as I, walked out and just walked down the street and just felt that cold. And by the time I got to the door, I'm like, I'm not cold. I mean, it's not bad, right? And I think what you said about that cold bath, that reminded me. So that was like a fun disruption.
Yeah.
And hopefully I burned some extra calories from that too.
Yeah. Well, I think it reminds me of it's a rabbit hole, but my client's in Vail for the month. And he was looking for a cold therapy studio, like a cryotherapy clinic. Like, hello, you're in the snow, go outside. And I was watching some travel show the other day and they had it was in Finland, showing Finnish saunas and what you do in between. You go do snow angels in the snow. So I told my client, go do he has a higher dose sauna blanket, and then go do snow angels and do your cold therapy for free in the natural outdoors, which is what we're supposed to originally do, is have these different extreme temperatures. So that's funny. Yeah. Or go to yoga hot and then stand outside. Okay. So going back to the MenuPause. So your book is, help us heal, get energy. I always say, to feel our best, look our best, and perform our best in life. So really finding which food plan to start with, like, well, how do you know where to start? And then let's dive into like, when do we switch it up? And when do we know to push pause? And how do we learn those red flags, or when like I need to course correct?
Yeah, well, I definitely have a MenuPause quiz that kind of built out, okay, if you were just to do like, okay, I'm going to do 1 6-day plan, what do I want to do? But I recommend all of them, honestly, and I put them in an order that's really logical, and I can walk you through that as I go through it. But so the first thing is, the MenuPause quiz, like, do you have autoimmune disease? Are you a plant-based eater? Have you been, carb restricted for a long time? And then I want to make that disruption. So we have the MenuPause quiz, and you can take that. We'll give you the link for that. And so, but I would say, like, initially, especially clients that have been doing my keto green, and you're athletes, right? You're overall, what to eat, how healthy. I started kind of with this logical order as I walked through each of the plans, one to be very anti-inflammatory, one to be very carb restricted, one to be very plant-based, one to be, there's different reasons for each of these plans. And they each cause a little disruption.
Yeah. So just going back, I wrote, athletes don't really know what to eat. That's why they don't know what health is. And that's kind of what I find is why I'd like to talk about your books on the show, because fit and healthy, what does that mean? Nowadays with people doing, the old fashioned high carb processed foods, having goos and Cliff bars and power bars, as an athlete, there's a lot of confusion. I think even with all the keto growth over the years and being fat adapted, there's still confusion of what to eat. And even on this show, I'm trying to talk that carbs are not all evil, that I think people think keto means 0 carbs, and athletes do need a little more carbs. And that's why I like your plans. They are great for athletes, for female athletes, because some weeks of the month and days we can add more carbs. And if you're exercising more higher intensity, we need more carbs. Nightly refeeds of carbohydrates, we suggest for athletes, can be like 100 to 200 grams of carbs a day and still show you're in ketosis. And there's studies that show that even if you're doing like ultra, endurance stuff, you can still stay in ketosis if that's a goal and if it's necessary. But point is, fit and healthy, the definition of what to eat for being healthy athlete is very confusing.
Yeah. And I think it would definitely transition based on what stage of life you're in. And so, and that makes sense too. And especially like, again, the one size fits all obviously does not work.
Yeah.
Calories in, calories out does not work. We do not need to eat less and exercise more. No, we need to figure out what our body needs, nourish it well. And carving up in the evening, like I would restrict carbs during the day, but carving up in the evening, like that sweet potato or whatever it may be, you can get a better night's sleep, especially if you've been carb restricted for a long time. And so that's why I even have a 6-day plan that's a healthy carb up plan as well.
So I keep laughing. You say 6 days. There's 7 days in the week. What's the seventh day? Is that just like a whatever day?
Seventh day rest, 7th day of rest. So it can be whatever you want it to be, honestly. But I would say, like, I still am pretty strict, gluten-free, dairy-free, and if I'm doing like healthy sugars, right? Like, what is a healthy sugar? So if I am doing a fruit smoothie that day, or, like, what is a treat for you? And I laugh because I was interviewed on, I think it was People, I forget which magazine, but they asked me about one of the Kardashians who was doing keto. And on the 7th, like on Sunday, she would have, pancakes and waffles. I don't know if she's still doing that, because once you're doing this for a while, if something makes you feel bad, you stop doing that. But that is that exploration. Like, okay, if you say, I'm going to do the 6 days because on day 7, I really want to have my, coffee frappuccino from Starbucks, right? Yeah. Okay. And let's see how you do from that. Or maybe instead you're going to make it the coffee frappuccino with almond milk or oat milk and, 1 pump of vanilla. Maybe you're going to modify it the following week, or, you're going to have the chocolate souffle at our local Toulouse French restaurant, which, I love having that, every once in a long while. My cousin's birthday was the last time, that was months ago. But that's in my mind, like, oh, I'm going to have that chocolate souffle. I'm not going to restrict myself, but I'm very careful what I have in my house and what are some healthy optional switches. And then again, how do you feel after that? Mm-hmm. So I think that's where we use that 7th day. We use that 7th day to just check in with ourselves. Well, how am I feeling? Mm-hmm. Okay. And then what if I do this? Well, I know, and then maybe you want to go right into another 6-day plan, or you want to, take a week or 2 break and do the same plan again and say, I am feeling better. Let me stay with this. So we're going to be doing something really fun, Debbie. I'm definitely going to bring you on for this. We're going to be doing, when MenuPause is released in my Keto Green community, we'll be doing these 6-day challenges with each of the different plans. So we're going to set out, and I'm still trying to decide if I want to do a new plan every Monday starting, and then Sunday's your rest day or rest day and prep day. And do that, just kind of cycle through all of them and just see how, the feedback that we get and what else we need to tailor, advise. And so we'll be doing that live, and, we'll have live calls with me, Q&As, and some good fun stuff planned just to see. The other thing I really want people to understand, the 6 days. Why 6 days? 6 days is a really, it's really an intelligent number, first of all, but 72 hours, it takes 72 hours, that's 3 days, for the gut mucosal lining to reepithelialize, to regenerate and, rejuvenate. And that's a critical time. And so there's 2 72-hour cycles in 6 days. So that's attainable. And by 6 days, we should be able to get a good idea. Okay, yeah, this works for me. Or nope, something in this is irritating me. Let me troubleshoot this a little bit more. And let me move on to the next plan. So it helps that way.
I think that's so good. And I have a chart, metabolic typing diet chart, that's I always like, is looking at how you feel and look at the symptoms, like checking in with yourself. Here are some questions for me to ask myself, and anyone wants the free handout, I can give it to them. But it's just like, okay, do I feel energetic? Do I feel bloated? Do I have gas? Just kind of go through the basic checklist. But that is so good to think about, how does this food make me feel? And, that's free. It doesn't cost anything. Just ask yourself these questions and check in with yourself. And that's what I was saying in my intro before I came on. It's like, how do we know when to push pause and course correct? We need to learn how to be more intuitive and feel what we feel. And I think so many people are sympathetic dominant that we don't know, like, oh, I don't know. Do I have gas? We're so not connected with our body. It's amazing. So we don't always know how that food makes us feel. So it's kind of a learning process there as well, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when we're used to, and this is when we add something back that our body's been, we've omitted for a while, and we get a really harsh reaction, right? We can get a really harsh reaction. Your body's like, don't do that to me again.
Mhm.
And that's really very, very interesting, because when we're, say, for example, when I used to eat dairy, I mean, I would have certainly ear infections and constipation, but I didn't put two and two together. And until I eliminated it and added it back, and my fingers were swollen, I had, a discharge in my ear again. That wet feeling is always my trigger. There was something I ate that had dairy to today, and it's been
Yeah.
over a decade. And so it's really important to look at that. Or my migraine sufferers, I make them gluten-free, dairy-free, follow, Keto Green Extreme plan, and they'll have something, that is a food sensitivity, like, for example, piece of pizza. That's the classic. Oh my God, it's just amazing. Yeah, pizzas are just amazing. But anyway, they'll be like, oh God, I had a migraine. And they felt like I was comatose for, the next day. And that's important. That's self-discovery. And so many times a client, especially our athletic, you've got the working out, and you guys, you know, are so disciplined. You will power through anything, and
That's,
sometimes to your detriment.
yeah.
They'll often come back and say, Dr. Anna, I didn't realize how bad I was feeling till I started feeling good again.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And I would say that moving here in San Diego from Seattle that year and a half ago now, but I would say I never knew I wasn't happy until I came here and feel this sense of joy and happiness every day. Same thing with food. It's like, until I take that out, I had no idea it was how it was weighing my body down. If it's like, for me, I'll get, my brain feels like it's throbbing, like, oh, my head will hurt. And we were eating out at a restaurant last weekend, had Brussels sprouts, but of course it had, some sauce on it. It was like, oh my gosh, there's something in here I should not be having, because I could just feel my head hurting. And that just freaks me out. Like, I'm going to have like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's or something. So I think taking it out, so you really realize, what foods work and not work in your body without doing a full Vibrant Wellness or Cyrex type of lab, that you can tell.
Yeah. And I think, there's, speaking of Brussels sprouts, one of my favorite things, crispy Brussels sprouts. And you just think, okay, well, they're going to be really healthy, but depending on what sauce, and often like they'll put some cheese, Parmesan cheese or something on it, and those are toxic for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so being really clear too, when we are eating out and enjoying that we're clear with our restrictions. Can your chef just make it without any dairy or any cheese? Butter's okay if it is for you, or not. They can use something else. But I think it's really important to get that, to definitely say what your food sensitivities are. And now there's so much awareness. Oh my gosh, man, when I started doing this, 15, 20 years ago, that, we had nothing in the stores and the restaurants. They're like, what are you saying? And so, it's great to be a pioneer. Sometimes it runs into obstacles now, pave the way for so much. I'm waiting to have Keto Green approved on all the menus.
Yeah. Well, I was actually have an interview scheduled with Whole30, Melissa, who, you see everywhere. There's some restaurant here, the Flower Child restaurant that's around, and it's Whole30 approved meals there. And it's just grocery stores. Like, how did she created that huge empire doing that? So yeah, I think one is looking at the different menu plans and the food, and how if you can get it delivered to someone's house. Cause I find a lot of people don't know how to cook, and eating out so challenging, as we just said, but just real food is the main thing. Like, I can eat at home and we can make Neil cooks for me. He's my chef, but like crispy Brussels sprouts are crispy because we broiled them, and I put some avocado oil on it, and, eating at home is ideal. And there's a thing I think I want to throw in on clean versus dirty foods, that you're having real food, and the benefit of having these menu ideas that people struggle with what to eat, and having these simple recipes makes it a lot easier to figure out how to stay on whatever program, and then find out what works best in their body. But there's a lot of, I'm finding cassava flour and all these different non-gluten ingredients that I have clients getting more sensitive to, because it's in, they're eating processed gluten-free food. So I think it's stick with eating your protein, vegetables, and healthy fats. And then once in a while you have a keto treat or whatever you want to call it, because it has all those like replacements in it. So I think it's your menu ideas teaches people how to make it simple.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's so true. And I think that's a really big piece is, what's going to be best for you, making it simple. In the book, I did put shopping list in there. And then we have book bonuses. So anyone who gets the book, wherever you get it, come back to my book page. And there's many bonuses, including, the plans at a glance and, and some cooking videos, and just to make it easier. But yeah, I gotta, and many things will fall into play, but for 6 days. I mean, that's why each plan is 6 days. We can do anything for 6 days. We really can. If we just commit to that, and food prep and batch cooking and how that looks. And we've got some bonus batch prep guides too.
Good. So
that's
can we talk a little bit about each one? I know we mentioned them before the first episode, but Keto Green Extreme is the first one. So let's kind of touch on the main benefits for each one.
Okay, yeah. So Keto Green Extreme is really like, it eliminates the, nightshades and peppers, because autoimmune, with autoimmunity or that hypersensitivity, we want to eliminate nightshades. And so, and that can, many people are very sensitive to that. You actually don't know unless you eliminate them. And so, but we can get a good idea in 6 days if that's a problem. So that's the first plan. And it's following Keto Green principles: healthy fats, high quality protein, and low carbohydrate greens, lots of good greens and herbs and spices. So that's a really good thing. And then, focusing on always intermittent fasting, no snacking, those rules around that, and they're gluten, dairy-free plans too. And so that's the first plan, really to help support your immune system. And especially if you have autoimmune issues, and again, each of us can benefit from a break in nightshades. That's something that was really challenging for me too, because I love eggplants, like baba ganoush. I love tomatoes. I can just eat cherry tomatoes. I mean, they're so good. And just cut and bite into a big, good heirloom tomato. I mean, all those things I love, but those are nightshades. And could that be, causing a weight loss plateau? Could that be causing inflammation in your joints? Well, let's just see. Let's check this out. So that's the first plan. And the second plan that I run through, again, you can run in any order, but I kind of had some logic around this, of course. But so the second plan is a plant-based plan. Often when we're going keto green, or we've been keto for a while, we get constipated. And constipation is a really big problem for so many. And that means, like, if you're not having a dark brown banana every day, like a stool that looks like
not eat a brown banana.
Wait, I thought we were keto. Yeah, like a stool that looks like that. I mean, that's a healthy stool, right? So so every day, because I would ask patients on my intake form, they would say, "Oh, never constipated." I'd be palpating them, like, feel really constipated. How often do you go to the bathroom? Oh, or how many times a day do you go to the bathroom? And they would say, "Oh, not every day, once a week." I'm like, "It's constipated. If you're not going every day, you're constipated." And for some, once a day is constipation. But like, I'm happy with once a day at this point. So I think that's a really important issue. So the plant-based plan is to add in fiber, some good pre and probiotic rich foods, and to support you in a plant-based eating style, which is good for all of us to try periodically. And it also making sure for my plant-based eaters, they're getting enough protein and fat in that plan too. It is definitely intended to help support your gut microbial diversity, because we know the higher a plant diverse diet improves gut microbial diversity, which will improve our resilience, which will help our immune system. So that's the second plan. And then the third one I put in there is more of a carnivore plan. It says carb modification plan, or
carbohydrate pause.
Carbohydrate pause. We are pausing all carbohydrates in that plan. And so that is really nose to tail carnivore-ish. And honest to God, my liver cardamom recipe in there, that is like, I would never eat. My daughter ate it up. He did just sneak in and sneak out. We were talking. But so that's a really good. You guys are, you can substitute for that liver if you don't want to, but I did make it delicious. I'm telling you, so good.
Just don't tell me it's liver or organ meat. I might be able to eat it, but then I might not talk to you for a while if I find out that it was organ meat.
Yeah. But I think that's where we need adrenal support now. That's where we need thyroid support now. We used to eat nose to tail. In other words, we used to eat glandulars. Now we're not. So our body kind of needs them.
I know I was reading, just a side note, I was reading this blog from Brian at Ancestral Supplement Company about thyroid capsules that they have, how important it is for thyroid health. I'm like, gosh, it makes sense, but I just don't let me read the ingredients.
Right.
Okay, it's thyroid, you're eating heart and kidney if you get the full organ complex meat. But yeah, it's just like, obviously, where even when I was trying to get pregnant, I did sheep placenta, something supplements from a Chinese medicine doctor. It's like, I ripped the label off so I wouldn't know what I was taking. Just trying to get pregnant. Just tell me what to do.
So true. So true. The things we'll do, right?
Yeah.
And, so it's important awareness so that people will get a healthy view of what that looks like. And again, let's see how we do. And also sometimes we have such enzymatic impairment that we're not even digesting the fruits and vegetables very well. And so there's a lot of bloating and irritability. And so that's why we go right to the extreme plan. And let's just see. And we should have, the GI tract should have mobilized. You should be having regular bowel movements, be very alkaline, because in contrast, the carnivore plan is quite acidic. So, there's not, but the glandulars help, and the herbs and spices definitely help. So that's part of the part of the plan. And then the next one after that is you're right now, you're in full ketosis by the end of the carb pause. You're in full ketosis, so you're not going to be hungry anyway. So let's take advantage and do a nice little cleanse and really give your GI tract chance to rest and restore. Your skin will be glowing at the end of the 6 days. I am telling you. So I have keto green shakes in there. So good, healthy protein, fat, green. We've got some great shakes, as well as, again, easy to digest, resting our GI tract, some teas, bone broth or alkaline broth. And so you'll have that time to, and you won't be hungry. We ran it through our girlfriend doctor community. And so pretty much everyone in that is menopausal or well beyond menopause or perimenopausal and well beyond. And one of the things I do is the liver gallbladder flush. And you don't want to do this every day, but for 6 days, we did the, olive oil lemon flush that I've created. It's beautiful. And you just chug that down. So you're also, again, adding in with healthy fats. You're not hungry, man, and you just feel so much more energized. So it is a beautiful cleansing plan. And then we've been pretty well restricted with carbohydrates during this time. So then we go into plan number 5, which is the carbing up plan with great, delicious recipes like my Texas rodeo skillet breakfast is amazing, you guys. It is really a nice twist. We some sweet potatoes instead of regular potatoes, but sweet potato bacon base and some sunny side up eggs, drizzle it with some good Texas hot sauce and add some avocado in there. And it is a beautiful, good, it's a beautiful anytime meal, but certainly for breaking fast. And, but seeing how you do, I like to really, especially when we are looking at carbing up, that we really, if we need to, if we're triggered or we want to maintain, is to, use that carb up in the evening too. So you can look at that and play, but I'm excited to see, I know working with women in this, in this space for a long time, and in my keto green plan, sometimes I'm like, I need you to eat some sweet potatoes. I need you to eat some rice. I need you to, we have to carb up, but I don't want to trigger any eating disorders or eating patterns. So having those healthy, the healthy metabolic balance, really becoming insulin sensitive, and working through the reasons we self-sabotage ourselves, all part of the plan in the community that, working with to really get us through some of these roadblocks that are nutritional, emotional, physical, mental.
So a couple thoughts there. One is, really personalizing nutrition and really going the N=1 experiment and individualizing which plan meet your body where you're at right now. Right. And looking at your, pre-menopause, menopausal, post-menopause. And then I would, work with people with their exercise program and their menstrual cycle and look at, okay, let's, your workouts the week before your cycles start should be more restorative, easy. And that's maybe a good time to do the cleanse program. And really looking at which time of the month should you add this program and how does your exercise, so pairing up or matching your exercise with your nutrition based on, even diving deeper with your menstrual cycle for those who are still cycling. But we were talking before the show started about, everyone's so different even there. It's like, when should I do lower carb or higher carb based on my cycle? If you're still cycling like I am, I'm 50, but I'm not menopausal yet or showing signs, sadly, kind of want to. But
Right.
it's like, you're
aging at its best. Yeah.
yeah. But like insulin resistance, you mentioned, is a factor versus someone that's, really lean and fasting a lot and athletic female. I think there's, again, you're diving down even deeper, individualizing which food program and when to add your carbs each month, or like what food plan where it's higher carbs and when to do carb refeed. It's really, so individualized. And how many carbs can we tolerate without throwing our blood sugar out of whack and having these highs and lows? So I think that's an important part to note, because insulin resistance, I've said over the years, I had struggled with, not because what I was eating, it was because my chronic stress in life and internal hidden stressors. So insulin resistance, which I just started reading Ben Bickman's book finally, but it's not just from food, it's from stress itself. So just note on that. I think that's an important part of kind of this journey, looking at the food plans.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's always more than about what we eat. Food is certainly a big part of it, but it's more than about what we eat. It's how we think, the thoughts, right? And it's sometimes hidden survival techniques that we've adapted to. And having have had PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, having suffered with that in the past and exactly knowing how that can put you in this negative downward spiral, it becomes really critical to create positive daily practices of gratitude, of love and affection and encouragement, all especially ourselves, smiling and self-talk. I mean, that is oxytocin overpowers cortisol, right? The good overpowers the bad. We have to believe in that. We have to practice it. Where do I see all the good in my life? And it's often all around us, but we're not focused on it because we're aware, we're afraid, what's going to hit us next? Where's the problem? And we can start thinking that way, and that takes us down a spiral. So sometimes that's the missing piece. And I definitely have seen that in my own life as well. So it is a daily practice to do oxytocin practices on a daily basis. Just that before I get out of bed, where do I see love? What am I grateful for? Where am I thankful? And that's really powerful. I mean, it really is powerful. And who we associate with, right? That makes a big difference in our lives too.
Yeah.
And how are we influencing them? Are we as encouraging to them as, and are we as encouraging to ourselves as we are to them? So that's really important. I think the one thing with like the cycling with your menstrual cycle that's really interesting to me, and I haven't played with this in my own life. I'm definitely postmenopausal now. I think before I was like, oh, next month I'll be postmenopausal when our last chat. And so definitely postmenopausal now. It's been over 12 months since my last menstrual cycle, and I'm 55. I'll be 56 this year. And so, one of the things is that if we're insulin resistant, carving up the week before our period may not be a good idea, right? So I want you're listening, to play with that. Do either like from cycle day 20 to 26, do the keto green extreme plan. How do you feel? Then do the carb modification plan. How do you feel? If you have PCOS and insulin resistant, the carb modification, maybe you need a carb mod day, but maybe not even on 6 days. So I want you to really think of that and see what time of the month. Typically, like it's great to fast during the follicular phase. You can do that during the follicular phase. So early on when you start bleeding and from there, but that, if you're menstruating, hey, when you start your menstrual cycle, that may be a good time to be carnivore for 6 days and just see how does that make you feel versus doing a different type of plan. But the concept is, I don't want you to be hungry. I don't want you to feel deprived. I want you to feel like you are nourishing your body and rewarding yourself. And you're using wisdom, because I did put in wisdom from around the world, from societies. You're using wisdom that's integrated into the plan to feed your soul, to feed your body. And I feel like that's a really important piece. No, like, let me know when you're on your cycle and, the week before your cycle in the luteal phase. Luteal phase is after ovulation. So typically day 13, 14 till the time you menstruate or till the time your bleeding starts. And so everyone has different cycle lengths. And then, and how does it affect you if you're on the birth control pill? Well, first get off the birth control pill, get a Paragard IUD or something else. But that's another story altogether. Sometimes that's our best choice, and I respect that. Definitely, I have prescribed, way too many of them. So, but I think that's an important understanding how it can disrupt our hormones. And then if we're under a lot of stress, what's going to best serve us? And I think when that's the case, community, healthy community, great coaches like you, Debbie. I mean, great influence. I mean, that's what great community, great friends. That's what helps us when we're stressed. And then I'll say, read chapter 8 of The Hormone Fix, the first book I wrote.
Yes.
Because that was, that's, I wish knowing the journey I've been on to learn what I know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so true. So two things on my list still, trying to run out of time again. I think there's a lot, I was just talking about this yesterday with somebody, kind of eating disorder-ish with these different food plans. And I see this in keto, people being so strict. And even I think I was so strict when I first started, but it was, like 15 years ago when I started getting kind of lower carb and taking out things, and with fasting. And I think more is better philosophy is used too often in our world, and athletes or type A personalities, high performers, that it's almost a different type of eating disorder when we start to say, we haven't talked about fasting into these programs, but when we're doing intermittent fasting or these longer fasts, and then we're trying to figure out what to eat in our eating window, but we kind of lose connection of eating to feel good instead of just cramming in all this food or not taking in food because you're scared to eat. I think our relationship with food needs to be addressed as you're talking about, like, nourishing your soul and paying attention to how you feel. But do you ever hear that or see that or feel it in our industry of people doing too much?
Absolutely. And plus, I'm only paleo, or I'm only keto, or I'm only plant-based, and I'm only, I think we are
Label.
We are diverse individuals, and certainly variety is the spice of life. So I'd like to say, that restrictions can do more harm than good to our, mental health as well as our physical. We want to encourage people to maybe just, open their borders a little bit and play for a little bit and try something different. I think that when we get caught up, like, I want our bodies, and I hear this a lot, especially in the carnivore community. Well, they can't, if you can't eat anything else, that just destroys your system. And I've had clients who've been on, like, they came and they were only on 3 foods that they could tolerate. And I hear this and I'm like, that is so sad. Well, let's get to the underlying reason of that, and let's fix it. Let's fix it. And so that's all part of cellular health, gastrointestinal regeneration. It's functional medicine doctors. And as I've been trained, we look at the GI tract, we look at your stool, we do your analysis, and we want to fix the stool analyses to look at the microbiome, the microbial capacity of your gut. What's affecting you, what's not? Where do we need to change things up? I think eventually in the future of medicine, we'll get really powerful at supporting gut microbial diversity with additional, like, supplementation or probiotics, etc. But I think what we need to know is, where are we living? What can we get? What can we pick that's growing fresh and eat it fresh? So that we're getting good bacteria and natural support for our immune system, and make sure that we don't get into this very sterile environment, right? Where everything's been bleach, chlorine, antibiotics. I mean, it's terrible. I can't smell regular chicken. I mean, it just smells like chlorine to me. I mean, it's terrible. So you have to look at what you're doing. And also, things that have been healthy but may have been treated unhealthy affect us too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, what we say, nutritional therapy is goals to eat real food that balances your blood sugar, that gives you energy, satiety, makes you feel good, and you don't have cravings. But really, figuring out what food plan works best for you and experimenting, but also looking at carbohydrates are not evil. And I think we've kind of went from always one extreme to the other, back when we started with paleo and then keto to carnivore and all these variations we're talking about. But in athletes, I know in our keto endurance group page that I help manage, there's a lot of people just to go to zero carb and then think all carbs are evil. So then we have this kind of eating disorder, as I was talking about, that we're afraid to have any carbohydrates because that's going to disrupt my fat burning ability and kick me out of ketosis. So now we just create this fear of eating any carbohydrates, and what type of carbs are actually nourishing for you. They're not necessary, but maybe you do want a sweet potato, and being okay with that and not feel like I have to eat these 3 different foods and only a steak or a burger patty or a piece of chicken every day. So I think it's that relationship with food and not having the fear of what's going to happen if I have that, as long as it's real food.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So what else can we share in the book? People can find it on your website, and it'll be out on Amazon and wherever people buy books still besides Amazon.
It's number one on Amazon in menopause right now. So coming up really close to that in other categories as well. So it's already very, very popular. So I'm really excited about that. We have a sneak peek. We'll give you that link to Debbie, so you can get a sneak peek of that, as well as the quiz, and get started on some keto green recipes right from that. But MenuPause is available everywhere books are sold. Definitely support your local bookseller. I really appreciate that. And then just let us know, be able to get the book bonuses from my website. We'll give you the link to the book bonus page too, to enter in your receipt number, and we'll send those bonuses to you too. So a lot of good stuff. And connect with me on Instagram at The Girlfriend Doctor and on Facebook at The Girlfriend Doctor, and join our Keto Green community to get started with us in our challenges coming after book launch.
Awesome. Are you selling the books in bundle? You almost need to, ideally people read the Hormone Fix and Keto Green 16, then read this. You need to read all 3 books, but you can just jump in and read MenuPause, but it gives you so much more information on hormones and the Hormone Fix and what Keto Green 16, the benefit, because it's not just food, it's also the lifestyle. And like we always talk about, you can't out eat poor exercise habits, and you can't out supplement poor lifestyle habits, that you need to look at what I call the holistic method. And you talk about all these different lifestyle habits in that book, as well as a little bit in here too. So I think, make sure you're working on the whole you from the inside out with what you eat, why, when, and how is essential.
Absolutely. It takes more than hormones to fix our hormones. So that's a really important piece. So to remember that, and that we're in this together, and each of us is individual. And so, so it's playtime. It's that time to enjoy our life and to not be so serious about some of the, stereotypes or the restrictions, and let's really work on healing from the inside out. And I think that's the key to biohacking. That's been certainly one of my keys to biohacking. And improving the quality. That I'm the oldest person in that yoga, that sculpt class that I did this morning. And so, it kind of gives me relief. And then sometimes I find myself, oh, well, I'm the oldest person, I could take a break. I'm like, you're not.
Yeah. Kick the young girls' booties.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. They're beautiful, beautiful people there. So got a long way to go, but I'm like, I love the journey. I love the journey. And it's doing some of those things that are, like, for me, it's the exercise challenge, because I love to cook. I'm a foodie. So I love having good food and good spices, and I love eating out, and I love my wine. I love all these things. So I'm a true foodie. So bring a little bit into the world.
Yeah. Last question, like you have to answer in 30 seconds, and it's a whole episode, but we didn't touch on the fasting. You have some fasting protocols, intermittent fasting within this book too, right? Because I'm sure people want to know that if they miss it.
Yeah, definitely. We typically do minimum fasting 13 to 16 hours of intermittent fasting. And then Sundays, if you want, you can do an extended 1 meal a day Sunday. And, so you can play that way too. Definitely during my cleanse week, we say just follow the plan as it's written to the best of your ability, so that you're not hungry, you're not having cravings. And we're just continuing to nourish, give your body and your cells the ingredients it needs. But yeah, all part of no snacking, intermittent fasting.
Yeah, good. And we would talk later if people want more information how to match your exercise with that too, because we have too much exercising on that OMAD day is not a good thing with the heart rate up. So going low, easy on that OMAD day.
Oops, I lost you, Debbie.
Oh, yeah, I hear you. I can't see you, or you're frozen. There you are.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah, it keeps doing that. Zoom.
Oops,
it keeps freezing, but I can hear you. So anyways, everyone go find the book in your local bookstores. Let's support the bookstores over Amazon, because I know it's so easy to just buy everything on Amazon, but they're taking over the world. So let's support the little people in the stores, and head to Dr. Anna's website. And we'll put all the links in the show notes so you can learn more and get all those extra bonuses, as well as the quiz to figure out where to start. Meet your body where it's at.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Debbie.
Thank you.